Welcome in to Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for starting out your week with us. Coming up on today's show, we have a hot, fresh batch of Seahawks news and rumors to begin your Monday, as we're going to be talking about Leonard Floyd, as well as a familiar name to Seahawk fans, Frank Clark. We'll get to all that and more coming up in just a matter of moments. Before we do, folks, we are right on the verge of 38,000 subscribers here on the channel. Just around 90 away, less than 100. I'm telling you, I believe that we can get there today. What are we waiting for? Let's reach that milestone so we can continue to grow this channel together. The 12s, you guys have been fantastic with us in the history of this channel, and we want to keep on going strong here on the channel to bring you the latest happenings in your favorite team. We're doing live shows every week. We have our daily news and rumors segments. We'll be doing watch parties throughout the season as well. This is the opportunity to jump on the bandwagon, to be a part of a movement, something special here on Seahawks Today. Subscribe for free. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV. We begin today with a familiar name in the Division II Seahawk fans. That would be Leonard Floyd, who most recently played for the Los Angeles Rams, and before that, the Chicago Bears. And CBS Sports is not just suggesting that Leonard Floyd would be a good fit for Seattle, but they are predicting that it will indeed happen, that he will sign with the Seattle Seahawks. Here's more from CBS Sports' Cody Benjamin. Seattle made sure to invest in its front seven this offseason, paying a pretty penny to add Dre'Mont Jones and reunite Jarran Reed, but the Seahawks could still use some juice off the edge, and Floyd, a cap casualty of the rival Rams, has quietly posted at least 9 sacks in 3 straight seasons. He could be a plug-and-play 3-4 outside linebacker for them. Now, I'll say this. When it comes to Leonard Floyd, I like Leonard Floyd a lot. I really was impressed with what he did to bounce back with the Los Angeles Rams after things did not go as expected when he was in Chicago. And we've seen him really turn around his career and look the part that he was expected to be when he was drafted. And he would be a big asset to this Seattle Seahawks team, no question about it. He would make things better. But think about this. When you look at Seattle and the needs that they need to address, and there are a few, Leonard Floyd bringing in doesn't fix some of the other more higher issues, more concerning needs for the Seattle team. I mean, you put him at the outside linebacker spot, as suggested there by CBS Sports, where we see Darrell Taylor and Eugene Nwosu are at right now. Those two combined for 19 sacks last season. Not bad, as far as I'm concerned. So, sure, Leonard Floyd would be nice to have, but that's not something you have to have as far as I'm concerned. You have other things to take care of, in particular the interior of the defensive line. We'll tell you more about Leonard Floyd here in just a second, but first, should the Seahawks sign Leonard Floyd or not? This is our pinned comment today. You know, I get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it and get your votes in. Tell me one way or the other. Y for yes, in for no. Should the Seahawks sign Leonard Floyd or not? What do you think? Y for yes, in for no. Let me know. Now, I'll say this. I don't think that Seattle is done making changes to this roster, but I would be surprised if a Leonard Floyd move in particular happened here. I think that when you look at this team, from where they're at right now, comparably speaking to what they'll look like when the season begins, there will be changes. But with where this team is at today, Leonard Floyd would be a surprise just because of what other things that you have to take care of, as we mentioned here. And that's not a knock on Leonard Floyd at all. Let me preface that and say, of all this, none of this is anything wrong with Leonard Floyd at all. I think he's a heck of a football player. We've seen this a guy that was a first-round pick. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been very consistent, too. You look at in his entire career, he's been a guy that's been dependable. You go back to 2018, and he started every single game in that stretch. 87 starts for the Los Angeles Rams, and prior to that with the Chicago Bears. He's been very available and consistent as far as that goes. You look at the numbers from Leonard Floyd over the past several seasons. We mentioned how much he stepped up his play when he joined the Rams in 2020 with 10.5 sacks. one forced fumble. 2021 had 9.5 sacks and a forced fumble, along with 70 tackles. And then most recently this past year with Los Angeles, 59 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 9 sacks. Leonard Floyd is right in the prime of his career, playing some really good football. And you maybe ask yourself, okay then, well, if you are going to make a splash for a guy like Leonard Floyd, what's it potentially going to cost you? Well, according to Spotrac, his market value would be around a 3-year deal worth $41.2 million. But at this late in the ball game of free agency, as we get ready for June 1 and everything, that seems unlikely that he would get a 3-year contract of sorts. If he is going to join the Seattle Seahawks, it would likely be a 1-year deal, a prove-it contract of sorts to show why he would be worth a long-term deal, whether it's for Seattle or someone else beyond this upcoming season. And one thing that is going to catch the attention of teams, not just Seattle but others as well, is when you look at the analytics from Leonard Floyd, they don't match necessarily what the statistics, what we showed you, say. His overall PFF grade last season was a 65.7. Not too great, obviously. And that's down from what he did in 2021, 70.4. So if you're an analytic nerd, you look at Leonard Floyd and you say, well, maybe you don't want him around necessarily. Maybe the numbers don't tell the full story if that's your prerogative, if you're an analytics nerd as far as that goes. So with that said, I don't think the Seahawks are done. I do think that they will make another move or two, that we will see this roster change before the season begins, but I don't know necessarily if Leonard Floyd is that guy. Name a player the Seahawks should sign. Tell me in the comment section, give me a name. It could be Leonard Floyd, could be Frank Clark, like we're about to talk about here in just a moment, but tell me a player you think the Seahawks should sign in free agency and let me know. Got a great deal that we have going on right now at chatsports.com/Seahawks gear. Throwback gear is available now on sale while supplies last for up to 60% off. Look, Mother's Day was a couple weeks ago. Father's Day is coming up here pretty soon. Why not get Dad some throwback Seahawks gear? We know the Seahawks are going to be bringing back the old AFC uniforms at some point this upcoming season, and so why don't you go ahead and throw it back and get Dad or Mom or whoever in style to throw back to the good old days of yesteryear. And I got to tell you, that the old Seahawks logo and those colors and everything have aged well. It still looks good. So go ahead and take advantage of this sale while you can now. Up to 60% off for throwback gear while supplies last. That's chatsports.com/Seahawks gear to get yours today. Up to 60% off now at chatsports.com/Seahawks gear. Frank Clark, could he be making his return to Seattle and rejoining the Seattle Seahawks? Something that we've talked about for a while here on the channel. The possibility is Frank Clark still remains an NFL free agent at this point in time. Well, former NFL GM Jeff Diamond, who is now working for the 33rd Team, which is a new NFL site that does a really good job providing perspective from the GM and management roles of the NFL. Jeff Diamond is saying that Seattle is the best fit for Frank Clark, that as he continues to look for a new home, that Seattle seems to be the best place to make that happen. Here's more from Jeff Diamond. Clark is a great fit to return to a team on the rise. Seattle added Dre'Mont Jones and Jarran Reed on the defensive line in free agency and drafted Derek Hall as a second-round edge player. But Clark could play a role as the designated pass rusher from the edge. The Seahawks have $10.6 million of cap space, so they may have to structure a deal with voidable years to get a cap number that works, such as a deal that could include big incentives. If Clark exceeds 5 sacks in the regular season, then the incentives earned would come out of next year's cap if it pushes the team over the cap this season. Clark could be the player who nudges the Seahawks past the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC West. Now, that last part you heard there, that's what you want to hear, right? Of trying to find that next thing to push Seattle over the top to win the division. Could Frank Clark be that guy? Well, the numbers on Frank Clark of what we've seen. The big story with Frank Clark over the last several seasons, I think, is the inconsistencies. We know that Frank Clark is a very talented football player. I mean, you go back to 2019, 8 sacks, 2020, 6 sacks, 2021, 4.5, and 2022, 5 sacks. But his career has been one that's been made of a lot of peaks and valleys. Things have not been consistent. Although most people know about Frank Clark's playoff success and what he's meant to the Kansas City Chiefs with their 2 Super Bowls. They definitely would not have won that first Super Bowl without Frank Clark and may not have won this most recent one without Frank Clark. He's been a big impact player in those playoff games. But still, for Frank Clark, it has been a roller coaster where he hasn't been dependable throughout the regular season. You still got to win regular season games before you get to the said postseason. And then you look at the off-the-field issues that have been going on all the way since his days at Michigan as well. To me, I look at that and I say those things, he's a little bit older now. I don't think it's worth it, quite frankly, as far as that goes. I think that the bad outweighs the good when it comes to Frank Clark. And another reason why, probably the biggest of all, is that it's not like Frank Clark's the only player available at the defensive end position that's sitting out in free agency right now. You have other good guys that you could sign. Yannick Ngakoue is still out there. Robert Quinn, Jadeveon Clowney, Melvin Ingram. I mean, Ngakoue is only 28 years old. Melvin Ingram, a little bit older now, around 34. But nonetheless, like Frank Clark, I respect what Frank Clark has done for his career. Don't get me wrong. But there's too many red flags for me that say, I'd rather go another direction. I understand if you're the Seahawks and you want to find another defensive end, another rusher to put you over the top with this defense to try to compete with San Francisco, as Jeff Diamond mentioned there. But it doesn't have to be Frank Clark as far as I'm concerned. Should the Seahawks sign Frank Clark or not? What do you think? Type S for sign, P for pass. Should the Seahawks reunite Frank Clark in Seattle where he began his NFL career? Let me know what you think in the comment section. S for sign, P for pass. Hit me up on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Tyler Jones Live. Love hearing from you guys there. And I'll see you next time here on Seahawks Today.